If you spend even 10 minutes on YouTube searching for videos about China, you'll start noticing a pattern. China is collapsing, China is about to invade Taiwan, China has a serious master plan, China is the greatest threat to humanity. The tone is almost always dramatic, urgent, and sometimes even apocalyptic. And after seeing hundreds of videos like that, it starts to shape how you think, even if you don't consciously realize it. So here's the question we want to explore today, not to defend China, not to attack the West, but to slow things down and ask something more fundamental. Is China really the uniquely evil, aggressive superpower that it's often portrayed as? Or are we looking at more complicated rivalry that gets simplified because fear sells better than nuance? China absolutely has serious problems. Human rights issues, censorships, political repressions, those are real topics, and we're gonna talk about them. But is the overall narrative proportional to reality? Let's unpack it carefully. To understand why the tone around China feels so intense today, we need to go back a few decades. 40 years ago, China was still considered a developing country. Its economy was nowhere near the size it is now. It wasn't seen as a peer competitor to the United States. Fast forward to today, and China is the world's second largest economy. It dominates global manufacturing, it builds infrastructure across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and it competes directly with the US in artificial intelligence, semiconductor production, and advanced military systems. This kind of rise doesn't just change trade numbers, it changes psychology. History shows us something very consistent. When a rising power begins catching up to a dominant power, tensions increase almost automatically. It happened when the US rose relative to Britain. It happened during the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. Power transitions are uncomfortable. They generate suspicion and worst-case thinking. And once a country is seen as a strategic rival, almost everything it does gets interpreted through that lens. A military drill becomes preparation for invasion, an economic slowdown becomes an imminent collapse, a policy change becomes part of a great strategy. One of the most common themes in anti-China content is that China is on the verge of military aggression on a global scale. So let's pause and look at actual military behavior rather than rhetoric. Over the past several decades, the United States has been directly involved in large overseas conflicts such as the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, and the war in Afghanistan. Where China's last major war was Sino-Vietnamese War. Now this comparison isn't about moral superiority, it's about factual context. China absolutely has serious regional tensions. Its situation in the South China Sea is contentious. Its stance towards Taiwan is one of the most dangerous flashpoints in global politics today. It has built military installations on disputed islands and it is rapidly modernizing its armed forces. Those are real developments. But there is a difference between projecting regional power and conducting repeated overseas military interventions across continents. When headlines constantly frame China as an unstoppable invading force while ignoring that distinction, the picture becomes distorted. Concern is reasonable, hyperbole is something else. Now let's talk about the part that some people either exaggerate or completely ignore depending on their bias. China is not a liberal democracy, it operates under a one-party political system. Media is tightly controlled, political dissent does not function the way it does in Western democracies. There are serious international concerns regarding policies in Xinjiang province of China, particularly related to Uyghur Muslims. There were sweeping political changes in Hong Kong that significantly reduced the region's previous autonomy. Surveillance technologies are widely implemented inside the country. These are legitimate subjects of criticism. Acknowledging that Western narratives sometimes exaggerate does not mean ignoring these realities. In fact, the most intellectually honest position is to hold two thoughts at once. China has governance practices that deserve scrutiny. At the same time, not every dramatic headline represents an objective assessment. When criticism turns into caricature, it stops being analysis and starts becoming branding. So why does the China threat storyline dominate so much online content? First, fear performs better than nuance. Algorithms reward engagement. Engagement often comes from outrage or anxiety. A thumbnail that states China might face economic challenges will never perform as well as China's collapse has begun. Secondly, strategic competition between the United States and China means that policymakers, think tanks, and defense institutions constantly analyze worst-case scenarios. Those analyses filter into media coverage, and once a country is categorized as a rival, every neutral development can be framed negatively. Also, information barriers make speculations easier. China's media's environment is more controlled than Western systems. Foreign journalists have limited access. That lack of transparency can create an information vacuum, and vacuum tends to get filled with dramatic assumptions. None of this requires a grand conspiracy. It's a mix of incentive, psychology, and geopolitics, and once a narrative gains momentum, repetition reinforces it. If you hear for 10 years that China is about to collapse, that message starts feeling true regardless of what the data says. Now here's the balanced position. China is not a flawless society. It has censorship, political repression, and aggressive regional ambitions. Those are legitimate concerns. But portraying it as a uniquely evil empire bent on global destruction oversimplifies a very complex geopolitical reality. China is a rising power competing with an established power. That competition generates tension. Tension generates narratives, and narratives are often exaggerated because exaggeration travels faster than reality. The world is rarely divided into heroes and villains. It's divided into interests, influence, scrutiny, concerns, economic leverage, and power calculations. You don't have to defend China to question exaggeration, and you don't have to hate the West to acknowledge that media incentives shape perception. The goal isn't to pick a side blindly. The goal is to think critically about how narratives are constructed and why certain stories dominate your feed. Because once you understand the incentive behind the message, you start seeing the world with more clarity and less emotion. And that's where real understanding begins. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked our analysis, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments down below about what you think about China and what you think about the narratives being pushed up against China. Thanks again for watching.